This is DiSH Unit 21 of 42. We are currently in between secret layers and request immediate assistance from the captain. Enclosed is this internet review I have produced for the show. Stand by while miscellaneous deep dish units broadcast internet reviews for your enjoyment. Thank you and have a nice day.
You're not gonna shut up about it unless I tear apart an Adventure Time episode for you.
Because, Deep Dish, writers don't care about storytelling anymore these days.
I don't get as to what you're complaining about, actually. I mean, there are some shows that don't really follow the routine of making it story-driven, and they don't necessarily have to be a story-driven show to begin with and can be just fine. I mean, look up shows such as Ed, Edd and Eddy, as well as Courage the Cowardly Dog. Or even the earlier seasons of SpongeBob SquarePants, for example.
Objection! Ignoring Courage the Cowardly Dog as it is a horror cartoon, SpongeBob and Ed, Edd and Eddy are both slice-of-life shows, whereas Adventure Time is supposed to be a gung-ho adventure show through and through. Now don't get me wrong, we're perfectly alright with slice-of-life as long as it doesn't ignore the elements that the audience shows up for. But with every Dr. Slump or regular show, there's a Sailor Moon or... Alright, that's it, time for the weekly beating, Viacom. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012, also known as NickTurtles, is the biggest disappointment since my chain-smoking great-grandma. Corporate marketing never really surprised me in terms of what universes they could sterilize or pervert through meddling and shit. But that was before the Ninja Turtles franchise, which itself was built upon silly concepts and toy lines selling out, were sold themselves to my arch-nemesis in the form of a multimedia corporation. Like, wow guys, I expected you to end up at Marvel or DC under their respective corporate banners, but nope. You wanted to risk surviving Michael Bay's filmmaking prowess, and now you're stuck with the goddamn talking cheese.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
Now every incarnation of a particular franchise like this has its own set of fans. That's why it's managed to hold on to a sizable chunk of it. One thing that makes it unique is that it tries to make a balance between the serious tone of the 2003 4Kids series and the kinda out there humor of the 87 Fred Wolf Turtles with a Mutant of the Week formula. Don't we all just love those? What really helps sell the show to potential viewers is the anime-esque art effects that show up from time to time. Fitting as the same guys who did the good Teen Titans cartoon came on board for this show at the start of it. But presentation alone can't carry a crappy storyline. Thankfully, there are plenty more good elements in the characterization department, specifically with Leonardo and Raphael. All throughout the Ninja Turtles franchise, we've seen Leo and Raph as the boring leader and the bland musclehead respectively. With the 2012 incarnations, we've seen a different side to the both of them. This new animal-loving side of Raph complements his beastly tendencies and adds to his character beyond the basic rivalry between him and Leo. Speaking of which, while it's cute to see him obsessing over Star Trek and anime, it also adds to the fact that the guy is still learning to be a leader after being thrown into the role by Splinter, whom we'll get to later. He naturally fits the leader in blue role, but struggles with it. That's one of the rules of Pixar storytelling. You always like a character for trying instead of his successes. He makes mistakes. He tries too hard. He can't seem to get the same level of respect from his brothers as other Leonardos before him. It kinda struck a chord with me. He resonates. When he decides to put his life on the line for the sake of his brothers, you really feel the pressure alongside him. But it's when we get to Donnie that our praise for this fruity little show stops. See, American animation studios today only cater to a specific 6 to 11 demographic as opposed to the all-ages entertainment of the animation renaissance brought about by the Steven Spielberg animated universe containing Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and the like. Viacom through Nickelodeon is obviously the biggest example of such a stupid mentality of shooing away those that don't fit into this category. That's why Avatar and Invader Zim were flushed out. That's why SpongeBob and Fairly OddParents are kept alive against their will. That's why Dan Schneider has a career. And that's why the show invented these aged-down versions of a sizable chunk of the cast, like the Turtles themselves, obviously, but also Karai, April O'Neil, Casey Jones, even squeezing in Irma Langenstein in her first appearance since the Fred Wolf series. Again, more on her later. And now let's get back to Donnie for a little bit. See, back when this show first started, there was a lot of support for Donnie Cross April. This was due to many people finding Donnie's crush endearing and him being a borderline woobie. However, near the middle of the first season, he went from attention-seeking to what can be considered downright stalking. Not to mention a whole nother line of romantic tension between Leo and Cry, which is a whole nother can of worms I'd rather not open. Throw in Season 2, adding Nickelodeon regular Josh Peck as Casey Jones, and Donnie has slowly backed off from the ship, as many of the longtime fans of the show have. And thank God for that. It's considered zoophilia and is frowned upon in most countries. Predictably enough for this show, Mikey only fares a little better. But that's mainly because the one girl left to pair him up with has been screwed over, as we'll see in a few minutes. Voice actor Greg Sipes does well in the role, and he certainly looks the part, but that's something you can say for the other turtles. The designs reflect an anime-esque art style in keeping with the anime feel to it, and it even works to give the turtles more unique definitions to add to the colored masks and different skin tones. But this dates back to Viacom's little problem I mentioned earlier. Just like the aged-down human characters. Back to Greg Sipes as Mikey. He's good, but every time I watch Mikey in action, I'm just one close set of eyes away from hearing Beast Boy telling his fellow Titans to kill the white man.
Booyakasha, right? In the Queen's English, right? Means like, hear me now, bow, selector, swallow back, holla, big up yourself, everything Irie, coming at you like Cleopatra, coming the bucket of the bus, recognize, represent, keep it real, diggity check yourself before you wreck yourself, swallow back, oh yeah, and hello.
And speaking of dorks that have been beaten down by corporate sameness, the Mutagen Man, ladies and gentlemen, wasn't he a pile of missed opportunities? Such a shame for such a handsome devil. Once a turtle fanboy stand-in by the name of Timothy, he tried to impress his idols under the monkier of the Pulverizer.
Yeah.
Though clearly not the brightest bulb in Banky Stadium, you could say he did his best to help, even if it hindered the turtles like Mike from the Fred Wolf series before him. Some people might find him annoying, but keep in mind that the mutations of the week up to that point have been played for laughs. So seeing an innocent person in such searing pain before melting into the puddle of ooze we call Mutagen Man? He was promised to be the centerpiece of the second season, but then the showrunners got fired for not using the Krang! You have no idea how much I hope that there is evidence to be found that prove otherwise. Alright, the Krang, I should be talking about those Gozaks. See, it was created by an Utrom scientist named Krang, that's Krang with 2 A's, who seeked the ability to control Utrom minds a la the Yeerks from Animorphs, but also to convert those Utroms into clones of himself. Talk about a vanity issue. Naturally, with a power like that, of course a few Utrom cooks like Krang with 1A from the 1987 Fred Wolf series by Fred Wolf Productions would be willing to help him out with the whole species-wide mind control shtick. We meet an organized group of Utrom later on in Season 2. We meet an organized group of Utrom survivors later on in Season 4 who fight back against those fools. But let's just focus on the whole Krang Collective thing. This actually isn't all that bad an idea. You have both your good, kindly Utrom on one side and your evil Krang Utrom slave things on the other. Plus, it can justify why the use of exploding robots as foot soldiers. But this sadly has its drawbacks, which hurts many an aspect of the show, one of which being Irma Langenstein. Loosely based on her Fred Wolf series counterpart, she's dorky like Donnie, but more deadpan and down to earth. She isn't afraid to admit her feelings and give input on a situation. She just says what she feels with no regrets in her mind. She appeared in an episode or two before we got a glimpse of her true potential in A Chinatown Ghost Story.
In this episode of Lords of Death, I mean the Purple Dragons, find an evil ghost named Lo Pan, I mean Ho Chan, who kidnaps Kim Cattrall and an Asian girl with green eyes, I mean April O'Neil and Irma. So Jack Burton and his Asian sidekick, I mean Casey Jones and Donatello, have to stop the three storms of thunder, lightning, and rain, I mean wind. This episode is basically Big Trouble in Little China. Like, if you haven't seen this episode, just go on Netflix, turn on Big Trouble in Little China, and then just change the tint on your television to a greenish hue, and done. And you get a longer episode. And a head explodes.
Basically, Ho Chan said that Irma had a special power within her that he himself is unsure of. This sparked an idea or two in my head. Maybe she was capable of using magic to act as a counterpoint to Karai's foot ninja teachings and April's psychic Utrom powers. Yeah, April has mutant powers now. In fact, she's a half-human, half-Krang hybrid or something. Look, I don't really get it either, but just go with it and be thankful that she didn't come to life from a fucking drawing this time around. In case you're wondering, yes, I really did like this character a lot, and hoped that she'd get more involved in the show and finally get to hang around the Turtles and be all badass like them. And yes, I really would have loved to see her train with Splinter and see what kind of weapon she'd use and see her moves in action. I really believed that she had the potential of it all. But then, just watch.
You guys are as dumb as a box of rocks!
Don't get me wrong, as much as I love Gilbert Gottfried, who doesn't, he's quite hilarious, although annoying at times, he's trying to lift a sinking ship that the character he portrays, Krang Supreme, made one of the bigger holes in, with the potential characterization that he had just wasted. Compare this to the wasted character development for Marceline the Vampire Queen in Possible Future Regular Customer Adventure Time. To move through time, you must leave your body behind, or some shit like that. This is why Robbie the writer had an issue with the episode entitled Betty as to why Marcy lost her toy bear. Why can't she give it to another kid, instead of just stuffing it into a time machine?
The characters are limited to their story arc episodes, and that's the way characters go to waste.
There have been plenty of shows that have the overall story arc that, although represented to a minor degree in the other episodes, are only brought in the forefront of a smaller section of the episodes. The majority of times, there's a lot more of a story arc near the beginning or the end of the season than in the middle, and that's clearly what happens here.
To keep the continuity crunch out examples within the Nicktoon family, we'll point you towards Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2 when nerds collide. In that brain-dead excuse for a TV special, Professor Calamitous and Jorgen von Strangle, voiced by Tim Curry and Darren Norris respectively, tried to grab Jimmy's 3D hypercube, but things went into chaos, and after their fusion, we never see it again. This is the same episode where the rules about anti-fairies were flushed out of the main Fairly Odd Parents canon forever, definitely causing permanent damage to the concept in general, hence the reason why I intend to tear apart these specials in the future. Cause this is like Sonic and Mega Man having a crossover, but Sonic continues while Mega Man bites the dust, because apparently Sonic comics are pretty much the corporate status quo for Archie, just as new Fairly Odd Parents seasons are the corporate status quo for Viacom. Then there's this asshole, Master Splinter. Give credit to what they're trying to accomplish with Hamato Yoshi becoming Splinter like in the Fred Wolf series, which combined with the dramatic backstory of most other incarnations of the character make the mutation seem like an insult to injury. But to put it bluntly, Splinter's kind of a dick. He pushes his turtles down and shames them in whatever way possible. His parenting skills are all over the place, and there are way too many storylines he could have averted if he had a thing called common sense. But it's in the climax of Season 1 where the character designs show off just how much his taller design is absolute garbage. Rowdy C of the fantastic internet review series TV Trash explains that giving Splinter a shorter stature and the other shows compared to the old Shredhead himself gives the image of the whole size does not matter method when the two fall. That works pretty well. The trope is averted entirely here because of demographic politics. So yeah, I did not feel a drop of pity when Shredder finally kills him off in the Season 3 finale. Spoiler, fuck you, because in my opinion this is the worst Splinter ever. I smell something fishy here, my theory being something probably went wrong with Joshua Sternin and J.R. Ventimiglia, the original head writers of this series, as the big arc episodes of Season 2 onward have been handled by Brandon Uman, who was hired in the middle of the first season, and say that he doesn't get the Ninja Turtles is an understatement. His writings for the show tosses all sorts of plot threads from incarnations past around and about all willy-nilly with literally no rhyme or reason in an attempt to make it seem like it has a purpose, but much like Stephen Moffat's spin on Doctor Who, there's no sense of escalation or context or whatever's going on. All the episodes are just him saying, hey, here's a thing from a past Turtle continuity. We have to make you buy his toys, or we lose our job. You know who this fucker is? No? Too bad. And what we're left with is flanderized characters, predictable plots, and a surreal power struggle between hand-drawn anime and cheap CGI. And now that I'm done pouring out every single problem I have with the NickTurtles that I had to get off my chest, all that's left is the final verdict. While it's not the best Ninja Turtle show out there, it does have its parts of interest, and believe me when I say that you can do a lot worse, especially compared to the other shows I've talked about. It has its ups and downs, but hey, that's what happens when a story resonates with people. It doesn't matter if the storyteller's spin on a certain thing is fucking horrible, what matters is the fans can survive and hopefully learn from the mistakes made from that show when they get control. Bottom line, if you're at least mildly curious as to what this incarnation has to offer, despite it being only slightly less mediocre than Johnny Test, then give it a shot and see what brain-dead codfish are spewing fan art by the buckets for. But if you're new to the series and want to know more about it, go see Platinum Dunes' Turtle sequel, Out of the Shadows. And the fact that the same studio carried by Michael Bay trudging his way through the Transformers franchise made a better Turtleverse than the fucking show, it's just telling as to how fucked Viacom is as a company.
I'm at Comic-Con!
So yeah, with the sequel bombing and the show sucking, things really don't look too good for the Heroes in a Half Shell. Let's hope they get back on their feet soon. Alright, I'm gonna take a break from reviewing to clean up my computer as it's getting pretty darn full these days. Ladies and gentlemen, well, thanks for writing Loose Without Fandom Awesome, and I'll probably see you next Thursday when this special needs person from the Power Girls revival ends up causing an episode. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you're a conformist. Follow us on social media if you feel so inclined. And if you like what we do and want us to keep figuring, check out our Patreon page. Drop a few boon dollars our way, and until all are one, good fight, good night, and remember, if you stand for what you believe in and find the strength to do what's right, that's turtle power.